Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am Sam, I'm an artist and illustrator coming to you from Dublin in Ireland. You can find me all around the internet looking for an Irish knitting podcast or on my website irishfarmart.com. I am so glad I'm back. It's been quite a while. I think last episode was filmed in November. I took this unforeseen gap from posting my podcast videos because I had a very bad dental surgery. I had to undergo this surgery for a while. I was putting it off, and then I bit the bullet, and it was very painless and was alright in the end, but the recovery time was quite long and I really couldn't speak in front of a camera without dripping everywhere and sounding decent for a little longer than I have foreseen. I wanted to film some vlogmas like last year, but that wasn't really possible. So I'm fine now. And thank you so much for everybody that sent me a message asking how I was. And everything is completely fine. Today I am here with our traditional end of year roundup with all the madness that is sitting behind me. So without diddling into life updates and stuff that you might not want to hear about, what am I gonna talk about today? Apologies if I'm a bit rusty with the filming situation, but today I want to give you a roundup of the 15, 17 jumpers that I have knitted in 2023. I went through my Ravelry page where I usually keep count of everything that I do, without though taking very good notes, because now I have a handy piece of paper here that tells me everything that I've done, because I for some reason couldn't be bothered to update my Ravelry. So I went down on Ravelry and I filtered by year. On the year 2023, I saw all the things that I made, and although in my mind I didn't knit a lot, I actually made about 26 projects without counting what I have frogged. And on those 26 projects, 15 are jumpers. So I really can't fit everything in an episode, so I decided to focus on the jumpers, and especially on the ones that I am enjoying the most. But I really hope you like the format and the situation, and please, as per usual, hit the like button, subscribe, and tell me which one of the jumpers is your favorite. So I'm rambling already. Let's start with the first, which is the one that I'm wearing right now. This has been started in 2022, but I finished it in January 2023, and it's the Save the Children sweater by Arne and Carlos. This is the second iteration of this jumper that I'm making. It was my very first garment back years ago, and then I enjoyed that first jumper so much that I really wanted to make another one, and here it is. I'm gonna give you a little modeling around. It's a Wrangler sweater knitted from the bottom and up with a beautiful color work. The proceedings from this jumper, from this pattern, go to the Norwegian version of Save the Children. I think it's called Red Barna or something like that. Enjoyed very, very much. I have knitted this in Drops Alpaca, which is a fingering weight yarn, of course by Drops, so 100% alpaca. I have used, let me get back my notes here, 11 balls of alpaca in the color dark gray and pearl gray, which is this whitish color. I know it looks white here, but it's kind of a tone of gray. I used 11 balls, we said. Something that I want to tell you here is the price of the yarns and how much the finished garment cost me yarn-wise. We all know that if we have to take into account time, materials and everything, this is not relevant at all, but I wanted to give myself a little bit of health sanitary check on how much I kind of spend on yarn and stuff knitting related. So here you go. 11 balls in my local yarn shop cost €3.60 each, 69. Which makes €40.59 for the quantity that I use on the jumper. It's a good price. I mean, you will see that going through the jumpers, everything is around 40, 50 euro tops, so I'm not spending huge amount of money on my yarns. It's something that I want to be a little bit more mindful of, perhaps going into 2024, checking nicer or more, I don't know how to say this in a nice way, more particular yarns that may cost a little bit more, but doing some more research. Drops is great, cost nothing, but you don't know where the wool comes from or how the sheep or the alpacas are kept. You don't know the ethic behind the yarn. It's a big company, so you need to give and take a little bit. So that is something that I really want to be mindful. Maybe knit a little less, but get some higher quality materials and something that I can really be proud of. What else to say about this pattern? I knitted the second size. Now, you all know my 240 rule. I know that if I knit with finger away yarn, 2.53 millimeter needles, I am using the size that is closer to 240 stitches, which may not give you anything, but at least allows me to skip heavy swatching, which is always great. Let me give you some measurement of my chest as well, so you can have an idea. I never done this. I have my measuring tape here. So my chest size, this may be embarrassing, is 105 centimeters, which is 41 inches. Anyway, that is my size, and that is the stitch count that I'm always looking for. If a pattern says a number close enough to 240 stitches at the waist, I'm going with that, and I know that the garment turns out to be quite fitting, and this fits very well. I really love this pattern. I'm sure I'm gonna make more. The design is really modern and it's really beautiful. I can't keep talking about a single sweater for so long. We better go on with the second one. Let me change. Here we are back with the second garment, and this is the Flatten Gunner by Berger. This is part of one of the Berger's books called Norwegian Knitting or Knitting Norwegian Style, something like that. All the links are below in the description if you're curious to check out this pattern. This is a full-on color work. Let me give you some show here. Once again, I knitted the second size, the size that is closer to 240, and I think it's lovely. It's a great color work. On camera, it even looks better than on myself, which is quite interesting. The yarns that I use is a combination of a Holst Garn ink, which is the blue color on the base color, and Woolly Knits Stormy Blue, if I'm correct, which is the lighter color. Now, price-wise, I took a bit of a chance here. It's not a perfect. The yarn is a yarn that comes in cone, both Holst Garn and Woolly Knits, so you buy the big 500 grams cones, and you knit from it. A cone of Holst Garn and Woolly Knit is about €33.90. So I consider the weight of the jumper and how much yarn I use, and combining the two cones I use a little bit more than 300 grams, which brings us to a price of around €35. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love this type of wool. I love knitting from a cone because it's, in my mind, guilt-free. From a cone of yarn you can make at least a couple of jumpers if you work in single strand fingering weight yarn. So it never finishes. But I'm running through cones quite fast, and yeah, I still need to place another order with Holst Garn. Unfortunately, I can't get Woolly Knits anymore. It's just too expensive to get the shipping into Europe, and the taxes are just crazy, so not going to do that. But Holst Garn is still my favorite yarn, one of my favorite yarns, so great. Once again, I used a combination of 2.5 and 3 millimeter needles. It's worked from the bottom and up. You can see lovely raglan shaping and decreasing here, which actually this is the second raglan jumper that we have so far. So you can tell how raglan jumpers, raglan construction is my favorite style, and as well knitting from the bottom and up. It's kind of my favorite way of knitting up a jumper. I think I develop a little bit of a know-how on understanding where the sleeves go and how to shape the yoke and so on and so forth. When I'm facing with a top-down jumper, I'm always a little bit hesitant, but here you have it. This, I was saying, is a full-on color work. You need to be very careful about not stretching it out. I'm realizing that the sleeves, especially here on the cuff, running up to the cuff size, it's probably a little bit too tight, and this is due to me being patient, finishing quickly, and not minding not minding to stretch the yarn nicely and have my floats quite even. But overall, it's a great jumper, colorwork wise. If you want to knit a colorwork jumper, this is probably the way to go. Looks very impressive, but it's super easy to knit, and as well because here on the raglan decrease and down here on the side of the jumper you have this little mark that comes back over and over through the pattern, as well on the underneath of your sleeves. So at any point on the knitting, you know exactly where you are. So even if you are an inexperienced knitter, it's great because you can check yourself at every point in the pattern. Now, the pattern is not memorizable at all. Even after knitting it up many repetitions on the sleeves, on the body, I couldn't bear to memorize it. It's just so intricate. But at the same time, it's very easy to knit up. So once you have your piece of paper with a pattern and you point out where you are in the pattern, you know exactly where you are in the jumper. Does it make any sense? I don't know. But I found it super easy to not to get mistaken, if you know what I mean. Now, if the Anne and Carlos jumper was knitted without any modifications, because I just knitted that a couple of times before, I took some liberties with this jumper. One of the things that I always do is adding short rows at the back. This was particularly difficult because we do have a colorwork in the jumper, so it was kind of difficult to match the pattern and the short rows, but I think I managed quite well. I don't know if I can turn enough, but you can't really see where the short rows are, which is what I wanted. The second modification that I made, that I'm actually consistently making in all my jumpers, is to decrease down here towards the waist a little bit on each side. I say 4 stitches on each side to create a little bit of a funnel shape. I think that is fitting very well my body type, and as well, you know, the wearability and so on and so forth. I warmly recommend it for any male sweater, especially if you want to get quite a fitted look, which is kind of always the look that I'm looking for. Now, let's go on with the third jumper. We are 15 minutes in. This is gonna last forever and ever. Let me change. Alright, let's abandon colorwork for a second and look at the Billy Pullover by Sari Northland. This is a March edition in my knitting. So, let's talk about yarn first of all, and then we'll get into the pattern. I use Peer Gynt by Sannes yarn in the color Beige Tutti Frutti, which is this beige color with specks of color everywhere, and I think it's called Tutti Frutti because the specks are like rainbow colors. I saw this yarn from someone on the Instagram and I fell in love, so I bought a massive amount of yarn. I knitted actually 2 jumpers out of this yarn. So I used for these 14 balls of Peer Gynt DK, which is 3.75 euro a ball in a European shop that is called I'm gonna come back to you on that. I don't remember. Anyway, €3.75, 14 balls, 52 euro and 5 cents, which is an amazing price for this quality of yarn. Peer Gynt is one of my favorite yarns, DK wise. Comes in 50-gram balls by, I think it's like 90 meters or something like that, bang on DK. It's Norwegian wool and it's just amazing. So the Billy Pullover is a cable sweater. I was, and you know this, I was trying to knit a Aran looking jumper because in March I was running up to my Irish citizenship ceremony and all that came with that. So I became Irish and I really wanted to have an Irish looking jumper, and I started, I would say, 5 different iron sweaters from like traditional patterns and so on, without any success. This because I'm not great at cable. I don't like it, it's boring, and if I have to knit cables and flat and think about the construction afterwards, my mind would explode. It's not my thing. I endured for a long time, but I understood that it was just a matter of knitting and frogging, so I was looking for a pattern that was knitted first off a lot of times, so I could see modification and suggestions on Ravelry, and as well that was knitted in the round. And this was it. I knitted a couple of these. This actually is the second one. The first one that I knitted was a beautiful white one, knitted in Drops Merino Extra Fine, which is another decay from Drops and Merino. But fool me, I put it in the washing machine, hoping that, or from the label it was a superwash yarn, and jumper got completely ruined. Now I don't know if it's my washing machine. I put on the full cycle, it doesn't work, so I got annoyed and I needed a second one. This took nothing at all time wise. It's a brilliant construction. You start from the top, you knit a little bit of the back, then you join the front, knit in the round until you're done, attach the sleeve, Bob's your uncle. Let me give you a little look on this. It's great, as the same patterns both in the front and on the back. Modifications are of course the sleeves. I decreased in the middle here, you can't really tell, for a tighter wristband, which is not quite tight, as tight as I wanted. If I go back I would decrease more, and that was it. I didn't add short rows. Probably no, I didn't add short rows at all. The jumper was constructed with short rows already. It's a great jumper. I really didn't wear it much, but probably I should because I think it's gorgeous looking and fits really well. What else to say about this jumper? Nothing really. There's probably another similar entry coming very soon. Let's go on to the next one. So now we have another colorwork. This is actually a jumper that I wear all the time, and you can probably tell. I should probably wash it. But anyway, this is the Cortina Sweater by Arne and Carlos for Dale Garn. Dale is a Norwegian yarn company that as well sells the most beautiful patterns, and you can find actually a lot of Dale patterns for free. They're great, but they are in Norwegian. So I really wanted to knit this pattern because of the meaning of the pattern. The Olympic Games are coming back to Cortina, which is a town very close from where I'm from, literally like 15 minutes drive and you're there. And this jumper was originated or was created for the previous Olympics in Cortina back in the 50s, if I'm right. And Arne and Carlos took the pattern and modernized it a little bit. You can find other variation of this jumper in the Dale's website, but you can't find the Arne and Carlos's one. So after asking you guys, asking the internet, everybody were suggesting to reach out to Arne and Carlos directly, and so I did. and they were very gracious, saying that they don't own the rights for this pattern, and so I should contact Dalegar. I contacted Dalegar, and they were extremely gracious to send me the pattern for free. Now, the pattern is in Norwegian, as I mentioned, so the thing that I've done is to take the pattern, put it on Google Translate, as I don't speak Norwegian at all. And Google Translate, to be honest, doesn't do a great job. So I went back on other Arne and Carlos's pattern, and I look for similarities. I basically have all Arne and Carlos's book. I'm a big fan of them, and I could find constructions, details, and so on. So I put together the pattern, and here is the result. I didn't make any modifications in terms of short rows or waist shaping here, because it's quite tightly knitted. The only modification that I made is, where is it? Here. I added a Cortina sign. You can see it there, which is the official Cortina font translated into colorwork, if it makes any sense. And they use this for their Olympic advertisement, and to the tourist office use it for promoting the city. It's a very beautiful town. I warmly recommend you to go. It's bloody expensive, but what can you do? They're hosting the Olympics next year. Now, Cortina Sweater, I knitted the first size. So if you are lucky enough to get this pattern, the first size that I knitted is a little less low on gauge on my 240 rule, but this is because I used here Drops Baby Merino. So, mindful of the disaster of Drops Merino Extra Fine in my Billy pullover, I was drawn to knit on a tighter gauge. So, in this case, reducing the stitch count was the way for me to go. And the fit is actually amazing. The yarn is super wash, so stretches quite a bit. And even after washing, getting on a tighter gauge, a lower stitch count work fine for me. Now, Drops Merino, price-wise, it's €3.49. I use 15 balls of blue and light grey together. So I can't recall now, about 13 and 2 or something like that. And total price is €52.35, which is not as cheap as I was imagining buying the yarn. But, I mean, it feels very, very nice. It's a merino jumper. It feels like a sweatshirt. It's great. I'm using it all the time. And it's probably time to knit another one of these. Particularity of this jumper is the sticking on the sleeves. So you knit the pipe of the body, you sew in the top of your shoulders, you cut through, and you fit the sleeve in. Yeah, you are all familiar with sticking. Now, I have done sticking with rustic yarns so many times, but in this case I was very afraid, because it's merino, it's very slippery, super wash, and all of that. So I did a nice little machine basting type of thing to secure my stitching before cutting. That worked fine, never had any issue with that. Something funny is that I'm using this all the time, literally on a weekly basis, and I haven't got the time to sew in my ends until probably last week, which is great. I always had, even like meetings and stuff like that, a white hand coming through from a sleeve, which was quite interesting. But yeah, here you go, the Cortina Sweater by Arne and Carlos. Next on the show is the Moby Sweater by Petite Knit, and it's this one. Let me show you. It's another lovely cable style sweater, quite similar to the Billy pullover. This is knitted in Peer Gynt once again. The price here is around €52. I use 14 balls of Peer Gynt in this gorgeous green color. It's a little too big for my liking, but this is probably because I lost quite a bit of weight in the last, I don't know, 6 months, and this is a May work, so there may be it may be that the jumper was fitting back then and right now it's a little too big, but I don't mind. Once again, it's constructed with knitting the back, and then you get on the front and then down you set in the sleeves. It's great as a jumper because the front buttons are so lateral that doesn't give any weight on your chest or body part. Modification that I made is of course reducing here and here laterally the stitch count going down, so to create a little bit of a funnel shape as per usual. If I go back, I would probably knit the sleeve a little shorter, but even if I roll them up, and I actually like this style very much, no, I wouldn't knit them shorter now that I try to roll this up. So it's great. The issue that I have here is that it's a bit boring, you know. The Billy pullover was kind of interesting with all the different cable situations. This is a bit more plain, and I'm realizing now wearing it that perhaps I have done a bit of a hard drying, hard blocking, because the cables look a little flat, so this may need another wash, but overall it's a great pattern. I knitted the second size up. I used this lovely DK yarn with a 3.5 and 4mm needles. I believe is what the pattern recommends, but yeah, what else to say? Nothing really. Let's go on with the next one. This is the 6th jumper. We have so many to go, I don't know how long this video is gonna be. So this is one of my favorite jumpers of this year. Let me give you a little show as well. It's a bit oversized, but I really love the feeling of this jumper. This is the Hunder Sweater by Rauma. I use Rauma Fino for this, as the pattern recommends, and I use 11 balls between this gorgeous brown and a mustardy yellow color. One ball of Rauma is €4.15, 11 ball is €45.65, which is a good price for yarn, though you have to take into account that I can't find Rauma yarn in Ireland, so I need to ship it from abroad, and on that price you probably need to have the shipping price, handling and all of that added too, so yeah. Now this jumper is back on my comfort zone, full-on color work from the bottom and up with the raglan decreases. What did I do? Added a short row on the back and funneling the waist as well. Rauma Fino is an interesting yarn because it's kind of a sport weight yarn. It's something that I'm not at all used to. It's not fingering way, it's not decay, so you can't get the 240 rule, for example, doesn't really work here. You need to swatch, and I can't bring my mind around what is the best way to knit for the size that I want. Hence I got an oversized jumper. I don't mind it because it's so comfy that it's fine, but I would really love to understand exactly what to do to get a perfect fit for the yarn. I find it that because it's first off sport weight, and second it's so rustic, so fluffy, if you wish, the fibers stick together extremely well, that I find that my gauge get looser and looser as I go. I don't know if you can see the wristbands are quite engaged, quite tight, and then it gets looser as it goes. Because my hands get really tired with the yarn, and especially with color work, untangling and all of that. Anyway, something that I am noticing now that I don't really like is the color, how the rows are showing so much on here. You can tell there is a beginning of the round going on here. I should probably have done this on the back or somewhere that I can't really see so much. Do you have any recommendation to avoid the gap? Can you see that? That would be quite interesting because I really love the style of this type of color. What else would I need to tell you about this? Yeah, nothing. Like the main highlight of this jumper is actually the yarn. It feels so precious, the yarn, to me. I don't know why. It's not too expensive, but it's probably because I can't really get him so easily that I would feel comfortable in using a large amount of that. I have quite a bit of the yarn in stash and can't bring myself to use it because I don't want to finish it. This is completely stupid. Anyway, this is the Hunder Sweater by Rauma. Let's go on with the next. Now, another big favorite of mine, this is the Redari Sweater by Istex. Istex is the company that does Let Lopi, Alafas Lopi and all of that Icelandic yarns. I have knitted this in the Sandnes Garn Peer Gynt DK in many different colors. The main one is the gorgeous beige Tutti Frutti that I use for my Billy pullover, that I use this blue, I think it's called ink blue, and a rusty orangey color, and white as well. So many colors. All in all, I use about 14 balls of yarn by €4.15, as the yarn is €45.65, which is great price for this gorgeous jumper. If I found this jumper in a shop, I would definitely buy it for more than, what about 45 euros. So yeah, nothing to say. It's a pattern that I've knitted before. I knitted last year another one as well using Peer Gynt, if I'm right, or probably Drops Lima, one of the two. Go back to my roundup of last year and you will find it. It fits very well, it's very easy to knit. It's knitted once again from the bottom and up, and this is a round yoke, so you just knit around until you are at the collar, and then you knit the collar piece. I added short rows on the back as well, hiding them into the pattern. Let's see if you can see them, if you can spot them. You can't spot them because it's very good. To do that, I added the short row before the yoke, the color work started, and right at the end of the work. So this piece of the color work results a little longer there on the back than on the front, but you can't really tell. I have knitted the first size here because I've knitted this before and I knew what was the size that fitted me. I really wanted this combination of colors. I think it's a pop of color that I never have been brave enough to use, and it's a great little jumper. I really recommend this pattern if you want a easy jumper colorworky thing to have with a very easy construction, but that fits all the time. Modification wise, apart from the two things that I just mentioned, the short rows and the funneling on the body, it's all the ribbings everywhere. So the pattern calls for a rolled up ribbing type of situation. That is something that I don't like. I mentioned this before, I think. Back in my teenage year, childhood, that age from, I don't know, 12 to 15, 16, I was a very overweight child, really, really overweight as a child. And I remember having this jumper with a rolled up neck and sleeves. And for some reason, I remember not liking that jumper at all. Made me look even larger than I was, and that was extremely mortifying, especially on the younger age. You know, you don't really have to choose, or I didn't have the power to choose what to wear back then, and for some sort of reason, my parents were convinced, my mom was convinced that that was a decent jumper enough to wear, and she made me wear it all the time, and it was extremely mortifying. I really, really didn't like it. I was so body conscious. So this to say that I don't like the rolly thing, because it brings me right back to that. I have knitted on my first iteration of this jumper the construction, and like it really was like a slap in the face, a punch in the face, and I had to rip it off and make this lovely, nice cuffs. Anyway, apart from that, let's just move on with the next one. What we have here is a Marius Sweater number 15 by Sunnes Garn, my ultimate favorite pattern to knit. This is knitted up in Holst Garn, super soft, in the color mustard and ink blue. And the cost of this yarn, as per the measurements that I so randomly did, is €39. Now, I have knitted this originally for my dad, but I never got the chance to give it to him, and I probably want to give it to him because I like it very much. So that's to say, it's a bit big in the body and sleeves, and yeah, modifications that I made is the usual Marius Sweater modifications. The sleeves are knitted a little longer here. I didn't use my 240 rule because the jumper was intended for my dad, so I went up in size a little bit. I added short rows, heavy short rows on the back and on the bottom of the body as well, so that the bottom part covers a little bit more the back. My dad is quite similar as body shape at mine, but it's a little taller and more muscular, I would say. So yeah, nothing much to say. Just love this, love this, love this. I especially like how the pattern is almost perfectly centered, which is something that never happens to me. It's always skewed somewhere. It's a sticked pattern, so you stick for the sleeves as per usual. In this time I haven't machine basted the sleeves because It's just a very grippy yarn, and the more you wash this yarn, this fabric, the more the fibers of the yarn stick together. It's so nice and rustic, and it grows so much in washing, which is absolutely great. Grows not the gauge or the length or the size, but the yarn plumps up. The cones of host garn comes, how can I say that? They come all drenched in spinning oils, because they are meant probably for machine work or waving. Am I saying something stupid now? But anyway, they are drenched in spinning oil, so when you knit, the fabric is very sheer, it's very holey, and you can't really tell how beautifully plump the yarn will come after washing. You wash it a couple of times, it expands in girth of the fiber, and becomes the most beautiful and lightweight fabric that you can imagine. And it's actually very warm. It's nice because I don't have heating in this room right now, and yeah, it's keeping me nice and toasty. Let's go on with the next. We are almost at the end. Now it is much later in the year. This is September, and this is Mr. Casual Sweater by Sunless Garn, knitted in Istex Let Lopi. I use for this jumper 14 balls of Let Lopi. A ball in my local shop is $3.75, which gives a total amount of 52.5 euros worth of wool. I don't know if you can see much because it's very dark, but it's a normal looking garment knitted from the bottom and up with saddle shoulders. Now, this was end of summer where I finished this. I went through a very bad knitting block. I couldn't knit, I couldn't take out my needles for some sort of reason that I still haven't realized. It probably was summer, bit of burnout as well. Art-wise, I couldn't really create or do much. So this jumper was the realization that it was just a momentary thing. I was knitting then some cable sweaters that eventually I frogged using this yarn, and I really wanted something easy, stockinette, in the round, quick and easy thing. And yeah, this was the sweater. Is full-on stockinette with the saddle shoulder construction. I didn't make any modification. I followed the pattern by the letter, and this turned out to be amazing. It's extremely warm with this kind of high collar piece. It's not a turtleneck, but borderline. And Istex Let Lopi is just the warmest yarn that you can find. It's a little scratchy, I have to say, but yeah, you get used to it quite easily. Yeah, this was the piece that made me start knitting again, and from this on I knitted like other 4 jumpers. So this was, well, September, are we saying something like that? What else to say? It's a pattern that I would recommend if you are in a pinch of needing to get back into knitting like me, or as well if you're looking for something really easy and you just want some nice looking sweater knitted in the round with big gauge. This is a DK pattern. I use Let Lopi, which is a little bigger than DK. It's not quite iron weight, but borderline. So I need to kind of be mindful of my gauge there. But I think this turned out to be great. Sorry, I'm doing this, but I'm so cold for some reason. Anyway, yeah, let's go on with the next one. There's nothing really to say about this. It's such a simple pattern, but yeah, a really great one. So here we go with the next jumper. let me show you a little bit. This is a late entry, so it has this beautiful color work on the front and the same on the back, mirroring. So this jumper has a story. This is the 20706 by Dalegarn. It's a pattern that I was looking for the longest time. So I wanted a Christmas looking jumper with reindeers and snowflakes and all of that thing, but I really couldn't find anything that I liked apart from this one. The point is that it's such an old pattern that you can't find it anywhere. I contacted Dalegarn and they didn't come back to me this time for some reason. Anyway, I took my beloved Cortina sweater situation and I took that as base for the stitch count and the construction. I saw that the construction was with sticking as well as the body knitted around from the bottom and so on and so forth. So I went on with that one that was matching, was from Dale, and Arne and Carlos have constructed it, designed it, so it was a great pattern. The color work, though, was the most challenging part because I went on the pictures that were on Ravelry. I enlarged them and with graph paper I started what do you say, penciling down, drawing the pattern as I counted the stitches on the pictures, and this is what it turned out to be. It's a great achievement for me because it's kind of reconstructing a jumper from the back side. I don't know how to explain this, but it's a great feeling, a great achievement. Let's talk about price-wise. Once again, I use host garn, about 200 grams here, 39 euro, topping on the 40 probably. The colors are green Loden color and ecru for the white, which is my to-go white. And this reminds me I need to get a new cone of ecru because I have such a small amount left and I wish to knit something else with that. I already know what that will come in my next podcast for sure, for you to know. What else to say? It's basically the same construction of the Cortina sweater with this gorgeous color work. This will be a great jumper for Christmas, as everything that a Christmas jumper should have: reindeers, Christmas trees, snowflakes, literally everything. And yeah, it's a brilliant jumper. Let's go on with the last two. So here we go. You have seen this in my previous podcast. It's the Foxtails Sweater by the Petite Knitter, and yeah, it's a great little jumper knitted in host garn. The colors are rust, ink, flannel grey, and ecru. It's a bit challenging because you have almost everywhere a 3-color and probably 4-color work going on at the same time, which is challenging. I have owned this pattern for the longest time, but I never really managed to knit it up. Always it was kind of scary to face such a big color work and complicated pattern, but I think this turned out to be an amazing little jumper. I don't think I made any modifications, not really. I'm looking around, but something that I always do, though, I have to say, in all my jumpers, is to do a folded collar even when it's not asked. and all my cast on and bind off are tubular, both on the 2x2 ribbing and on the 1x1 ribbing. I just like that type of style. Knitted in Ulster yarn, it's warm and kind of light at the same time, light in terms of weight. This probably needs another wash to be completely plumping, if it makes any sense, but it's a brilliant yarn. It's knitted from the bottom and up, favorite construction of mine. You attach the sleeves, and the color work, the yoke is knitted in the round, so you don't have any decreasing like a raglan, or you don't have to set in the sleeves, nothing like that. It's just a gorgeous way of knitting a jumper. I don't know why I'm always against knitted round yokes. They look actually very nice, and I know that I'm looking a lot at the viewfinder in the camera, but yeah, I'm kind of impressed by this jumper, and I never really look much in the mirror, if that makes any sense. But yeah, let's go on with the last one, because I think this video is gonna be the longest video. So here we go. We have hands to weave in. This is my very last jumper, knitted in Drops alpaca, and for this jumper I use 11 balls of Drops alpaca in the color white and navy blue. A ball of Drops alpaca is €3.69, which makes a total amount of €40.59. This is the Porcelain Sweater by Lane Holm Samsø, and it's great. It's completely out of my comfort zone in terms of construction and gauge. Now, what happened here? This is meant to be a alpaca, Drops alpaca, held together with mohair, so making quite a lofty yarn. I decided to use only Drops alpaca because I don't like mohair. I don't feel it's a nice yarn for me, and I don't like the look, to be honest. So the first thing that I had to figure out was, how do I get a fit using a thinner yarn and a thinner needle, and no minding the gauge at all. So I went up and up in size, and I kind of got where I wanted. Starts from the back top, and you need a piece of the back, and then you pick up stitches in the shoulder pads. You need a piece of the front, joining the round, casting on for the armholes, and then down. There's a lot of color work, purling color work, which is not my favorite thing to knit, to be honest, but that was the first thing to realize. So I ended up knitting the 4th size, if I'm recalling right. The next thing was to figuring out the row gauge, because it tells you to knit a number of rows after, I'm doing a stupid thing, after each colorwork piece. I had to double the number of rows to get the spacing of these 3 bands correct, and I think I did a good job. The only thing is that on the back you have more, you have the short rows constructed into the garment. So whenever I join front and back, I figured that the back piece was much longer than the front piece. You see how further down we go with here than here. It's nothing that bothers me, but it's something I should have been more mindful of. Altogether, I think it looks amazing as a sweater. It's very warm, and it's a very interesting construction. Next thing that I had to figure is the sleeves, because if you know this pattern, it's everywhere lately, it's very popular. The sleeves are knitted without the creasing, they are very wide going down. Of course, it's knitted for a female body shape and for a female, more feminine wearing, which I kind of don't like myself. So I had to decrease on the underarm as per usual, as you would do in any other thing, and be mindful of the color work and getting to a decent size of wrist. I think I made a decent job all in all. Would I need this again? I don't know. I think going so much up in stitch count and down in gauge was a bit too much, and as well knitting with alpaca, it's kind of a labor of love. So here you go. I need to take some pictures for the rubbery with this jumper that I haven't got yet done. That was it. We have all the jumpers that I currently have in my ownership that I have knitted in 2023. Now, I have knitted as well 4 pairs of socks. This between patterns that I designed and other patterns from other designers, which is really down from last year, in which I have knitted something like 12 pairs of socks. I have knitted 2 beanies, 1 scarf, which is the long scarf in double knitting that I just published the pattern a couple of weeks ago. No, probably a couple of months ago now. And 2 pairs of 1 scarf and 1 cardigan that I don't have in my possessions anymore because I gave it to charity. Now you see a lot of jumpers here. Some of them are going to be staying in my wardrobe, some other are going to be gifted, some other again are going to be given to charity. First off, because I don't really I don't have the space to keep all the sweaters, and I don't wear them all so often. So yeah, and that's something that is happening. And I think someone would really love a hand knitted jumper with decent yarn. There's much more than just the garment, but is the love that went into knitting it, and the fact that it goes to charity is it's a good thing. I unfortunately don't do much for charity. I should do more, and having the chance to donate some of my knitted stuff is quite good. Basically, all my socks, apart from like 2 pairs, have been gone to knitting, to charity. All my beanies, bar 1 has gone to charity. Or my hand knitted gloves, bar 1 has gone to charity. And I sent a few jumpers already, and then after I film this movie I need to figure out what to give to charity and so on. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this little roundup. I know it was long, a lot of rambling. If you haven't knitted any of these patterns, let me know. I'm always happy to compare and see other people's work, especially color choice, because I think I have, and I'm looking down because all of the jumpers are there. This year, something that I really wanted to do was to experiment a bit more with colors. Still though, I really stuck to grays and blues, a little pop of yellow, but that was basically it. So I'm always interested in seeing other people's work and other colors. I'm stopping the rambling now. I need to turn on the heating, and I will see you very soon. Bye bye.